So I feel like I've aged since I left, right? Para dun sa sa aking vacation. Um, Only because ang dami nangyari. Kasi kailan ako bumalik? Last week lang ba yun?
Yeah. Parang
1 week pa lang ba?
Yeah, parang 1 week pa lang.
Grabe, ang bilis talaga ng mga pangyayari. So, diba usually when you go on holiday, you think 3 weeks is a lot of time.
Yeah.
Pero doon talaga, hindi ko naramdaman na maraming time yun.
And I think I saw your calendar kasi. Parang you had a pretty tight schedule na tipong you were always meeting people.
Yeah. And the funny thing there is, nung umalis ako, wala naman yung schedule ko. As in, wala akong plano. I mean, yung plano ko was definitely at some point pupunta akong Rotorua, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was gonna spend time with yung cousin ko, which syempre ginawa ko kasi doon ako tumira, diba? Nakitira ako for 3 weeks. Pero apart from that, iniwan ko talagang bukas yung schedule. So, flexible siya. So, pagkarating ko, basically nag-email ako sa mga tao. And sinabi ko na, uy, nasa Auckland ako. You guys are free to meet up. Gano'n. So, parang, alam mo yun, throughout the net.
And everyone replied? Or
Hindi naman everyone, pero madami. And sobrang nakakatuwa talaga. Medyo kakaiba din siya as a trip for me kasi the last couple of times na nag-New Zealand ako, hindi man rigid, pero nakaset na yung itinerary before ako umalis. And a lot of it was about travel.
It was about seeing the sights.
Oo, parang, okay, punta tayo sa...
Medyo touristy stuff pa siya? Or...
a little bit, lalo na the first trip. It's like pretty touristy. Pero, ano siya, it's yung... Before kasi it would be like, puntahan ko yung mga iba-ibang campus ng mga schools.
Parang, so, you were there, parang, to meet a goal basically. Parang may mga,
Yeah. So, and it was about exploring New Zealand. Whereas yung trip na to was about connecting with yung mga tao.
That's really nice.
It was very different as a trip. And, alam mo yung kahit business related, yung a lot of it kasi syempre naging clients ko yun. The meetings didn't feel like work. Kasi it was really just catching up with people, kamusta na sila. And siguro if there was one word to describe yung the whole trip for me, it's humbling. Like some of the clients na meet ko doon, yung siguro ba mga 8 years na in New Zealand. So, makikita mo talaga ano yung naging journey nila in New Zealand. And like, yun, parang very humbling na part ka dun sa yung first stage para makarating sila dun. And then, yun, parang a lot of it naman talaga wala na sa kamay mo as an advisor. Kasi parang hindi naman as if yung ikaw yung naghahanap ng work for them or yung day-to-day day-to-day struggles nila. Hindi mo naman, hindi na yun part ng job mo. But, syempre, may care ka dun sa tao and invested ka dun sa success nila. So, sobrang fulfilling yung work. I mean, naiisip mo yun when nag-email sila or nag-message sila. Minsan kasi nakakamusta sila, nag-usap sila na yung nangyari sa kanila. But it's very different pag nandun ka. Tapos,
you're actually talking to them and interacting with the life they've built up for themselves.
Yeah. And towards the end of yung trip ko, siguro yun na nga parang sobrang siya like, I don't know if it was like apex, pero definitely highlight of the trip was in-invite ako for dinner sa house ng isang naging client. Sobrang ganda talaga ng bahay niya. Sinabi ko yun during yung because we recorded the interview. We'll share that with, everybody who's listening. Pero, as in talagang parang model home, like, yung meron pang orchids dun sa dining table. Like, yung gano'n. As in,
yung parang, parang makikita mo siya sa mga magazines type of home.
Tapos yung, yung furniture nila, yung mukha siyang out of a catalog. Tapos turns out, hobby niya pala yun. Like, nag-restore siya. So, sobrang,
that's so cool.
Diba?
Yeah.
Sobrang cool.
Yeah.
Tapos yun, like, on that note, yun yung parang one of the things na I picked up in New Zealand. I picked up as in, like, realization na parang sa Pilipinas, sobrang busy na ng buhay natin. We don't really have hobbies anymore. You know what I mean? You're just so exhausted na, yun, magna-Netflix ka na lang at the end of the day. Or like, you know, you eat your feelings. Or maybe it's just me.
I think the Philippines, especially in yung mga city parts, very condensed yung lifestyles natin here.
That's true.
Na parang in comparison to a place say like, Auckland, di ba? Like, you went to Auckland. Yung place na yun.
I mean, Auckland's still pretty dense. Especially if you're in the CBD. Pero, I mean, you head out. Because I was staying somewhere in the North Shore. Yun, you start to have yung houses na may yards. And yeah, people get, like, kids get to, like, run around in the yard. So, definitely different siya. Kasi dito parang, lalo na sa Manila, di ba, condo living. So, there, mas nakikita mo yung, hindi naman sprawling, pero mas yung may outdoor spaces. Definitely.
Ang dami kong nakikita na yung quality of life daw nila in New Zealand nag-iiba na tipong okay, they place more importance in yung work-life balance, yung mga stuff like that. Na tipong versus here na medyo workhorse ka talaga.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's pretty inspiring almost. Na parang,
alam mo, I used to think of that yung parang work-life balance is a bit more of an abstract concept na more about time. Like, in the sense na sige, doon di uso yung overtime. Mahirap magpa-overtime ng tao. But then, ang na-realize ko din, like talking to all the people I spoke to, na it's not even just about time. Like, time is one aspect of it. Na, ganun, pag uwian na. Wala na yung iintayin mo kasi kailangan urgent. It's like, time to go home, pack up. Pero it's also yung parang, hindi sila nagpapakamatay over work. Na parang sa atin, diba sobrang lalim ng investment mo. Na parang, pag hindi siya mapangyari, sobrang laking bagay niya sa'yo.
Parang,
sa kanila,
parang no weave masyado. I mean, dito sa Koru, I've never felt pero yung, I mean, like previous jobs na tipong, it's woven into your personal life in a way na medyo, parang you attach value to it.
Yeah, yung parang, dito kasi yung work, parang malaking part sa kanya, dinedefine yung pagkatao mo. And yung like, whether or not you're a failure or success, diba? Doon, work is work. Tapos, a funny story, right? So, meron akong fitness watch, diba? So, people talk about that, yung parang, so as in, sobrang paulit-ulit sinasabi ng mga tao, mga Pinoyans, like, masusuko dito kasi less stressful talaga. And tinanong ko rin yun like, kasi yung a bunch of friends ng pinsan ko, mga IT people. So, at some point in the dinner, tinanong ko na parang, malaki yung, balak mag-Australia kasi sobrang malaki yung pay sa Australia versus
and parang, yun yung common, diba?
Yan yung
parang,
sagot nila. Yung common na sagot is, ayoko doon kasi mas stressful doon, dito hindi. So, naisip ko yun, diba? So, like, sila yun na last week in New Zealand. I think it was like the second or third week. Naalala ko yung watch ko, meron siyang stress meter. So, sinusukat niya kung ano yung stress mo. Tapos, gulat ako. Alam mo kung ano yung stress na. 18. Ano siya sa Pilipinas, pagising ko na umaga, 64.
What? Wait, what?
Parang like,
Tawad ako.
Tapos, nung nakita ko yun, as in the only time na nag-18 yung watch ko before was like, tulog ako. so
yung New Zealand vibes na gano'n sa'yo.
Sobrang funny niya talaga. Nakita ko 18, tinignan ko Tapos like a few days later, tinignan ko yung history. Bakit naman OA naman ako?
Pero hindi, it was slowly going down ba?
Well, I don't keep track kasi malakas sa battery.
Okay.
Yung pag-constantly minimeasure niya. Pero, yun, parang sa Pilipinas, yung normal ko is nasa 60 plus. Tapos parang, yung high siguro baka umabot na ng 70 something. Pero 18.
Just chill.
Yeah, so alam mo yun. That was like, it makes a funny story. Pero, it's one of those things na you take for granted na you don't realize na sobrang high stress ng environment sa Pilipinas.
I mean, just looking out at people, especially with the traffic situation now, and all that stuff. And speaking of conversations, I'd like to ask, parang, what was the most interesting conversation out of your whole trip?
The first one that I thought of, we were talking about, naging client ko kasi yun, doing yung residence ng family. Tapos, nirefer nila ako sa isang kaibigan nila. Pero, ayaw nung friend nila kasi nasa Philippines ako. So, scam daw. Kasi sobrang baba nung fees ko. So,
parang, what a good deal.
Masyado daw.
Too good to be true.
So, yun yung na-realize ko. Alam mo yun, parang, sige na nga. Baka panahon na magtaas ng fees.
Parang sign yun na parang,
pero yung na-realize ko din doon, it's just yun, a lot of people put faith on the fact na nasa New Zealand yung advisor. Pero, syempre, mag-vary kasi talaga yung experience mo eh. So, sila, yung couple na nagsabi sa akin noon, sila, super happy sila.
With the service that they got.
Kasi very involved, ganyan. And then, syempre, nakamura pa sila kasi naabutan pa nila yung nag-discount ako eh. So, sobrang major savings. So, yung friend nila, siguro baka 2 or 3 times yung binayad. Pero, you know, it happens. But, yun, I realized from that na ano din talaga eh. Siguro yung mga kung anong kinoconsider ng mga tao in testing whether someone's legit. Maybe should be a bit adjusted. Like, yung kung ano yung dapat nilang hinahanap sa advisor. Kasi yun, parang just because you're onshore doesn't necessarily mean na okay yung makukuha mong service. In fact,
or na hindi siya scam. Diba? Parang,
on that note, sa scams, kasi part of the things na ginawa ko sa New Zealand was nag-attend ako ng conference for immigration professionals. So, one of the people who was there, he's one of yung parang compliance guys dun sa immigration. And, yun, like, one of the major topics dun sa conference na yun was immigration, fraud and exploitation ng mga migrant workers.
And I think it was very topical kasi even, di ba, reading upon New Zealand news, I think nagkaroon ng boom in immigration scams recently. Like, medyo, like, siguro for the past month or so.
I don't know if it's really a boom in the scams, but kasi from yung industry, we already knew that it was happening. Pero yung regulation, so like yung government, hadn't quite caught up.
Or parang yung news outlets, yeah.
So, syempre, alam mo naman, pag nilabas na siya sa media, nagiging hot topic talaga siya. Pero, yun, just to tie off that goal, diba? It is good to use yung mga licensed advisors kasi at least if you are working directly with yung advisor, number 1, obligado sila magbigay sa inyo ng kontrata. Number 2, meron siyang recovery mechanism. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? If na-scam ka ng advisor, pwede mo silang i-complain dun sa sa IAA. And then the IAA can order cost recovery. So, pwede silang i-fine and pwede silang i-order na ibalik yung pera mo.
And the whole process na yun, it's pretty quick, no? Or parang yung response times?
Honestly, I don't know if the whole process is quite quick. Kasi umaabot
verification,
tsaka umaabot talaga yun sa tribunal. So, there's like a court process involved. Pero, it's still better than,
getting nothing.
Oo. Kasi yun naman, like, in these cases of exploitation, yun naman yung issue eh. Merong offshore na unlicensed silang kausap. The thing is, kahit offshore, like, let's say for example, based in the Philippines, yung advisor mo, pero licensed siya, sakop pa rin sila ng IAE.
Parang may governing body pa rin na nakatingin, may oversight pa din.
It's one of the major reasons kung bakit nagkaroon talaga ng licensing yung mga advisors. It was exactly para there was a way to hold them accountable and to protect yung interest ng migrant.
Ano din pala, I wanna hop back on to dun sa earlier dating pinag-usapan before recording, which was yung quality of life, actually, going back to quality of life.
Oh, yeah.
Philippines versus New Zealand. Or parang hindi man versus, pero like, a comparison.
Madalas kasi na if you talk to people like sa mga forum, like, or sa mga Facebook groups, no? Some people will really caution against New Zealand kasi ang taas daw ng cost of living. And totoo naman yun. Especially like yung rent, ang bigat ng rent.
So, weekly payouts yun, di ba?
Weekly yung payments niya, and then syempre yung advance mo, deposits mo, ganyan. And ano kasi, hindi siya parang sa atin na condo, di ba? You could get a small studio, gano'n. Doon, madalas flat share kasi puro bahay. Pero madalas na nag-come up dun sa mga conversations ko or yung pagbagong salta yung migrant. Ang una nang ginagawa is kino-convert nila to peso kung ano yung binibili nila. Right? So, syempre, everything is expensive. So, parang pinag-usapan namin sobrang mahal ng talong. Yung talong, tsaka yung itlog. Like, right now, di ba, sa atin, talong, itlog, mura lang yun. Torta, basically, di ba? Cheap
ulam
food
na siya.
Yun. Oo. Pero doon, sobrang mahal ng talong. Like, maybe $5. Magkano yung $5, di ba? So, and then, let's say, roughly 175 pesos isang talong. Tapos, like, $1 mahigit. Or around that area yung itlog, diba? So, mahal siya. Period. Pero, pag kinonsider mo naman siya around yung minimum wage, ang layo din naman niya kasi. So, for example, sa atin, diba, ano bang minimum wage sa Pilipinas ngayon? I think nasa 500 something
per
siya.
day.
Per day yun, no? So, sa New Zealand, yung minimum wage na hourly is over $22. Diba? So, pag kinompare mo, ano yung mararating ng minimum wage mo? Malayo.
Per hour yun, diba?
Per hour yun. So, let's say for example, magkano yung cost ng 1 kilo ng beef? So, sa atin, like if you go to the supermarket, 400 something. So, that's almost like a day's wage for a kilo of beef. Doon, yung beef is probably around, mga 20 something per kilo. So, yung mga fancy cuts na pang steaks, mga 30 something. So, mas malayo na narating nung hour of work mo.
And parang yung well compensated ka to continue living to compensate yung cost of living there. Yeah.
I mean, the current visa system kasi when we look around work visas is naka-benchmark talaga siya around yung median wage. So, yung median wage is higher than minimum wage. So, like, if the minimum wage is 22 point something, yun, it's 29.66. So, medyo confident ka na if you get a work visa and then it met yung median wage, kaya mo talaga mabuhay sa New Zealand. So, yun yung na-realize ko. Kasi, yun nga, some people say na parang super expensive, ganon. Pero, honestly, ako ramdam ko yung inflation dito sa Pilipinas. And I don't feel like yung wages are going up
in the same rate
na commensurate, diba? So, dito, sobrang nararamdaman mo yung pagtaas ng bilihin. It's not to say that you don't feel it there, pero yun, it's just there are things na parang yung wages mo or yung work mo, siguro that's how I quantify it. Yung effort na pinapasok mo, mas nararamdaman mo yung effect niya. And that's in several ways. Kasi the other recurring thing that came up in the conversations I've had, which really convinced people na parang, sige, dito na lang tayo.
Parang New Zealand was the right choice.
Yeah, it's like, parang yung ma-experience mo lang yung may need ka for yung healthcare. Yun, sa lahat na kinausap ko, yun yung parang sobrang deal breaker for them or deal maker. Kasi yun yung nag-solidify for them to, either to stay or like really affirmed yung choice nila na mag-New Zealand. So for example, I remember talking to someone na sobrang tight ng budget nila kasi pumasok sila as student and then nakapag-work na sila after. Tapos dinala yung family and then yun, sobrang tight yung budget. So nag-worry sila kung kaya nilang i-afford yung gamot ng anak kasi nagkasakit yung anak. Tapos laking gulat nila na yung pharmacy din-dispense lahat. Tapos nung una namimili pa sila kung ano yung dapat lang na ano.
Parang
yung prioritize, diba? That's a very real thing here, diba? Yung parang, sige, or
kailangan ko to.
O bilhin ko muna yung for 2 days lang, tapos itong gamot, ito yung pinaka-important, sabi ng doctor. So, ganun nga yung thinking nila, which you and I can relate to, diba? So, nagulat sila kasi parang sinabihan na nila yung, yung person sa pharmacy na ito lang, ganyan-ganyan. Binigay lahat. So, syempre, papanik na sila internally, diba?
Can I pay for this?
Tapos, kinalikot daw nila yung gamot sa loob. So, weirdohan na raw sa kanila yung yung person sa pharmacy. Tapos, nung nakita nila may resibo sa loob, wala silang babayaran. So, parang sobrang nakahinga na sila after, diba? So, yan, imagine din mo yung mga ganun na situation. Or, yun, like, yung isa namin nakausap yung na-ER na siya, tapos wala siyang binayaran. Or, difference nung isa na namin kinausap was, dalawa kasi sila, tapos yung isa, residente na, yung isa hindi pa. Yung residente, kung nagpapa-check up siya, $19 lang. Yung isa, $180. So, ang laki ng difference nga, diba? And even if you think about it here, diba, magkano yung $180? So, nasa mga lagpas 6,000 pesos yun, diba? So, laking bagay yun. Or even here, diba? Like, kasi aabot ka rin ng like, wag nag-consult ka, minsan aabot ka ng 1,000. So, sa PS ng doctor. So, yun yung parang sobrang ramdam nila na worth it. Kasi kahit nag-iintay ka, kasi hindi naman siya instant, like minsan, medyo matagal yung wait for medical attention. Lalo na, hindi naman siya, hindi ka naman car crash, hindi naman siya yung urgent talaga. Pero yun yung malaking ginawa. And then, yun din yung isang napag-usapan namin na parang sa Pilipinas, pag wala kang pera, mamamatay ka na lang talaga. So, yun yung parang the common themes ng mga conversations.
I mean, so, you said you were connecting with people more so here sa trip mo ngayon.
Yeah.
What about yung mga places na napuntahan mo? Were there any highlights from your trip? Na parang new experiences or
well, there definitely were, I thought about that, like, this trip, there were quite a few firsts.
Especially driving in New Zealand.
Well, I've driven in New Zealand before, but I will repeat this for the benefit of the people. It was my first time to have such a terrible detour. So yun nga, alam mo naman, driving in New Zealand is different because you're driving on the other side of the road. And what that means for me is yung mga islands and yung roundabouts, they're not the same. So yun yung thing that takes a lot of getting used to, personally. So I was leaving work papunta akong Fannery. So first time ko mag-Fannery. And sabi nung nav na mag-exit ako dun sa roundabout. In my head, kasi syempre I'd not been there before, yung roundabout, yun na rin yung isang exit ng roundabout. Tapos also yung exit papuntang motorway. I was mistaken. So, nagkamali ako, went into the wrong lane, ended up exiting pa south ng motorway. Dapat north ako. So, yung detour ko ay napakahaba kasi yung next na exit ay 24 kilometers away at wala namang U-turn dahil expressway yun, motorway yun. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Nadagdagan yung trip ko ng 48 kilometers. So, never ako naka-experience ng ganun kalayong dito. isipin mo kung ganun kalayo yung wrong turn mo dito sa Philippines.
Parang, basically, papunta ka dapat NLEX, napunta ka ng SLEX.
Kind of.
Yeah, diba?
Kind of. It's like, alam mo yung pag, kunwari, yung sumampa ka ng Skyway, tapos hindi ka pala dapat sasampa ng Skyway. Pero diba, wala namang yung turn nyo.
Diretso ka na dun sa bagong destination mo.
Alabang, tapos yun na lang yung option mo. Labas ka ng Alabang.
Parang may quiet, quiet acceptance ka na, well, dito na muna ako. Parang,
ganon. So, sobrang layo talaga. So, syempre medyo grumpy na ako pagdating ko ng family kasi ang layo na talaga ng detour ko. Ayun. Pero, on that note, driving, sobrang, I'd forgotten how tricky it is to stay within yung speed limit. Kasi, lalo na siya ganon, di ba? Parang, it's driving outside of Auckland. Sobrang luwag talaga ng kalye. Hindi mo na-realize na lumalagpas ka na ng 100. Or, ano rin parang, like, kunwari may roadworks, ibababa nila to 30 yung speed limit for that area, or, let's say, for example, it's within a town, so residential area siya, 50. Honestly, mahirap siyang i-feel. Kasi pag nag-drive ka dito sa Philippines, kunwari 40, parang feeling mo medyo normal yun, di ba? Kasi sa dami ng traffic. Ang pumipigil sa'yo is yung traffic na yung ito, lalo na kung mabilis yung katabi mo, hindi mo talaga na-realize na nag-speed. So, yun din yung isang common na bring up dun sa mga conversations na ang daming nagkakaroon ng speeding fine. So, mag-ingat kayo sa pag-drive para hindi kayo matikitan. Kasi yung iba, no contact siya. So, makakakuha ka na lang ng fine in the mail. And yung ibang fines, malaki talaga siya. So, yung iba, parang binayaran nila is like nasa $100-something. Yung iba, like $300 plus. So, minsan mabigat talaga siya. Pero, kung sa highlights talaga, I do think na yung meeting, people
lang talaga. Yung
people talaga was really the highlight. Iba-iba Siguro one of the interesting things as well from that trip was meeting one of the advisors that I supervised. Very interesting because she is also a dairy farmer. So,
this is
yeah, so we also did a bit of an interview with her. It's really brief about what it's like in dairy farming. Kasi diba, you will see the comments on the page.
And sa YouTube,
Yeah, ang daming nag-inquire about dairy and maraming interested na mag-aral ng dairy. So, we decided she's kind enough to let us ask her a few questions about the dairy industry in New Zealand. Like, what do you need para maka-enter dun sa profession? What are the things na you can do to help you get onto a residence pathway? As somebody working in dairy. So I'm sure, sana yung nag-subscribe yung mga comment about about yung dairy kasi that's one of the things now we're gonna have coming up on the channel.
Thank you so much, Rafi, for sharing your experiences in New Zealand.
Thanks. Sana makasama ko kayo guys. If only I could bring you on the trip. There are some videos na hopefully it will make you feel like I did. But I will say na parang I didn't do as much recording as I hoped. Pero I think the most meaningful parts talaga are the interviews that we've had. So hopefully you guys can subscribe, like jump onto the channel, check it out.